Some years end with laughter. Some end with fireworks, and some end quietly. For Eleanor Whitman, New Year's Eve wasn't loud. It wasn't bright. It wasn't celebrated. It was just another night in a quiet house on a quiet street with memories that spoke louder than people ever did. This is not just a story about New Year's Eve. It's a story about growing old in a world that keeps moving, about loneliness no one sees, and about how sometimes one small act of kindness can change everything. The little blue house at the end of Maple Street had been standing there for more than 50 years. Its paint was chipped, its porch light flickered, and its windows carried memories instead of laughter. Inside, Eleanor Whitman sat alone in her favorite armchair, wrapped in a faded knitted blanket. She had made that blanket years ago, back when her hands didn't ache and her eyes didn't strain. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Tick, tick, tick. She glanced at it. 7:42 p.m., New Year's Eve. Outside her window, the neighborhood was alive. Cars pulled into driveways. Children ran past with glowing sticks. Families carried trays of food, laughing, shouting, living. Eleanor watched them like someone watching a movie she used to be in. Once upon a time, this house was loud too. Her eyes drifted to the photograph on the mantel. Frank, her husband of 46 years. He was smiling in the picture, wearing that old brown jacket he refused to throw away. He used to say, "As long as it keeps me warm, it's still good." Frank loved New Year's Eve. Every year, no matter how cold it was, he would step outside at midnight, raise his cup of cheap champagne and say, "Another year, Ellie, we made it." Eleanor whispered those words now, her voice barely louder than her breath. "Another year, I made it." Frank had been gone 9 years. Cancer didn't care about anniversaries, or promises, or plans. After he passed, the house became quieter each year, until silence felt permanent. Eleanor reached for her phone. No notifications, no messages, no missed calls. Her children loved her, she knew that, but love got busy. California traffic, Texas work hours, grandkids, bills, life. They always said, "We'll call tomorrow, Mom." Tomorrow came and went. She placed the phone face down, telling herself she didn't mind. But loneliness doesn't disappear just because you pretend not to feel it. She sighed, pulled the blanket tighter, and whispered, "Happy New Year, Eleanor." The words sounded strange when spoken alone. Then it happened, a sound she hadn't heard in a long time. Knock, knock. Eleanor froze. Her heart skipped, not with excitement, but confusion. No one knocked on her door anymore. Slowly, carefully, she stood up, her knees reminding her of every year she had lived. She walked toward the door, unsure of what or who she would find. She opened it. A young man stood there, holding a small paper bag, snow clinging to his coat. "Hi, ma'am," he said nervously. "I'm Noah. I live down the street." Eleanor blinked. "Yes?" "I was volunteering at the community center," he continued. "They had extra New Year's dinner boxes for seniors. I didn't want them to go to waste." He held out the bag. Eleanor stared at it. No one had brought her anything in years. "Oh," she said softly, "that's very kind." Her voice trembled, not from age, but from being remembered. Noah shifted his weight. They're also having a small gathering tonight. Soup, music, a countdown. Nothing big. Eleanor almost said no. She always did. But something in his eyes, hopeful, genuine, made her pause. Do people my age go?" she asked. Noah smiled. "Mostly people your age." Eleanor looked back at her quiet living room, at the empty chair across from hers, at the silent clock. Then she nodded. "I suppose," she said, "I could use some company." The community center wasn't fancy. Plastic tables, paper decorations, folding chairs. But it was warm. People sat together, some talking, some quiet, all carrying stories on their shoulders. Eleanor sat beside an elderly man wearing a Vietnam veteran cap. "Name's Harold," he said. "First New Year not alone." Eleanor smiled. "First one not pretending I don't mind." They shared stories, lost spouses, children far away, bodies that aged faster than hearts. Laughter appeared, unexpected, healing. Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, belonging. As midnight approached, the room grew quiet. Someone began counting. 10. Eleanor closed her eyes. 7. She thought of Frank. 4. She thought of her children. 1. "Happy New Year!" Cheers filled the room. Confetti floated down. And then her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Susan, daughter. Her hands shook as she answered. "Mom," Susan said through tears, "I didn't want another year to start without you hearing my voice." Eleanor cried, not from sadness, but relief. "I'm here," she whispered. "I've always been here." "I love you," Susan said. "I promise. I'll call more." Eleanor smiled. Promises mattered again. Later that night, Eleanor stepped outside the community center. Fireworks bloomed across the sky. Harold raised his cup. "To making it!" Eleanor raised hers. "To making it!" For the first time in years, the future didn't feel empty. It felt open. If you're listening to this and feeling forgotten, if your phone is quiet, if your heart feels heavy, please remember this. Growing old does not make you invisible. Your life still matters. Your story is not over. Sometimes hope doesn't come loudly. Sometimes it knocks. Happy New Year!